Hi there, I'm here making a frittata for breakfast. I've actually already cooked one so I can show you what it looks like when it's done, and you'll see me put it together. And I also can talk a bit about the vegetables I used. The first one, I grated a zucchini, and I used raw zucchini, and then I cooked onions and fennel. All right, the recipe you'll see calls for flash boiling things. That's great for something like uncooked broccoli, cauliflower, any of the veggies you might want to use. You can also use vegetables that are leftovers from the night before. So if you had some roasted veggies that you didn't completely use up for dinner, you can throw those into the frittatas in the morning. Frittata is one of those recipes that I love that you can kind of use up some of the odds and ends that you might have in your refrigerator. I used a little bit of fennel I had left over in the first one. My second one that I'm making that you guys will watch me put together is just cooked down arugula, which I sauteed, and cooked down onions. And then I have some fresh herbs from the garden. This is a great recipe to make ahead and freeze. You can cut it up and put it into a little egg breakfast sandwich. You can just have it for lunch with a salad. It's going to be a really good source of protein and help fill you up. I'll show you the one I've already cooked, which is really pretty. It's here. I used half the eggs. I'm doing 2 batches here because I wanted to show you one already done. You can tell this is done because it's good and firm in the center. You can also use a thermometer and check the temperature. It should read at least 160 degrees in the center when it's done. And I've already done this with this one. It's all done. And not everyone has an oven thermometer, but they're not expensive, and it is helpful when you cook things like chicken, or if you're cooking a lot of eggs, because you want to make sure things are fully cooked. And this is great. All right, let's watch me put it together. So I already read through the recipe, and I have all my mise en place done. I'm just gonna try to get it so you can see what I'm doing here. All right, so this is my pan. I'm gonna cook it in using my cooking spray so it doesn't stick. This is just canola oil. Then I'm gonna put the vegetables in at the bottom. This is a ton of arugula, so it looks like it's not very much, but it cooked way down. You got some of the water out of it. All right, this is the fork I'm gonna use to whisk my eggs. I'm just gonna use that to put my veggies in. The nice thing about putting the veggies in first is that you can always add more if you have more room. It also allows you to kind of disperse everything evenly. All right. So there are my veggies down at the bottom. Okay. I'm gonna put my fresh herbs inside. I do think the recipe calls to kind of put them at the top. I prefer to kind of have them mixed in. This is basil. There's no right or wrong way really for that. All right. And now I'm just gonna set this aside, make sure it's all kind of blended in. I have some dried herbs. I put the dried garlic and thyme, which I love the flavor of. So I'll set this aside. I'm gonna put the dried herbs in when I have my eggs all whisked. So you can use a whisk for this. You can use a fork. You don't need a fancy whisk to whisk up eggs. If you get any yolks in, if you get any shell in, you can just pull it right out. Let's hope I don't get any this time. Just crack it and up it. There's all kinds of fancy little contraptions you can put cracked eggs into to try to separate out your yolks if you want. I mean, you could do something like this if your cholesterol is high and you want to cut out some of the egg yolks. You could do, or say you have a recipe that you want to use a few egg yolks in and you have some extra whites. You could use some whole eggs and some egg whites. So I'm going to put my fresh herbs in there. My dried herbs in there. A little bit of salt and pepper. I didn't salt my cooked veggies, so you can always add more salt at the end, and you just got to remember the cheese is going to make it salty. I'm going to use Parmesan. You can use cheddar or whatever cheese you have in the house. I think a nice strong, like a sharp cheese is nice because you don't have to add as much to get the flavor. All right, so it's breaking up my yolks, mixing in my salt and pepper and my herbs. Doesn't have to be anything totally fully whisked up, but go. So this is it. Now you'll pour it in. It's gonna be a little bit low in the pan because when it bakes, it's gonna poof up. And then it'll settle as it cools down too. So that you didn't do anything wrong. If you notice, as you bake it, it poofs up and then it'll settle in. I'm gonna move this around a little bit. So for me, more veggies is better because I really do like to get a lot of veggies in, and the egg will really hold together a pretty large amount of vegetables. So this looks great. And then I'm gonna put my grated cheese right on top. Really, the grated cheese is just a little accent of flavor. You don't have to add tons of it. You already have a little bit of saturated fat in the eggs, and so I'm just gonna plop this right into the oven. And bake it for about 30 minutes. Mine might come out a little faster because it is about half the volume of eggs. You can also pour this into muffin tins, and again, that's gonna be quicker. You'll sort of know when things are basically done because you'll notice it cooks from the outside in, so it'll start to poof up on the outside and it'll move it away in, and when the top domes, it's probably pretty close to done, and that's a good time to check your temperature. All right, hope you enjoy.